G'day and welcome back to part 2 of my Healing 501E radio adventure. In part 1 I tried the radio out and it worked fine, so I cleaned it up, replaced all the components. This week I'm going to restring the dial. I don't have a drawing for that. It also develops a small fault which I attempt to trace down. So I'll start off back at the restringing and I hope you enjoy part 2. So now I can do the dial string, and I've been looking forward to doing this. And this is the low end frequency of the dial, so that means when I turn the spindle this way, I want the capacitor to go that way. To start with, it looks like they just hooked the string on that little lug there. There's nothing further down there to hook it on, so I'll guess that that went in like that and was pushed down like that. So somehow I've got to get it underneath that pulley there. May not be easy. So I'll put a bit of tape on here like that. And if I turn the wheel now, it should feed it around. There's the tape, yeah, cool. Now, according to my calculations, this needs to come out here. And I'll go back and do that again. So if I pass that up through there, I was doing this and I realised that it's wrong. I have done this wrong. Just looking at the angle on these two pulleys, that pulley has to line up with the top of the drum here, and this pulley has to line up with the top of the drum here. The string down the bottom here has to carry the cursor. So those two things can't change. So where this spindle comes into it, I'm not quite sure. I'll see if I can draw it out perhaps. Alright, so we have a pulley there, we have the big drum here, and then we've got a spindle down here somewhere. So as I said, I know that has to go up there, and I know that one has to go up there. This also has to go around there. So our cursor will sit there. So I think that would be attached, say, with the spring. This one must go past that, and whichever direction needs to go, then come back here and attach. I think that'll be right. I think that string needs to go that direction and then off there, so I'll give that a go. What I started to do was run this string up here like that, and that doesn't make any sense. It goes across that drum, so I think I can save myself by going that way and down here and grab the string there and along here and then around there and on top of the drum. I'll cut the old bit of string off here. Alright, I'll tie that off. We'll see if it's going to work. I've just done a very loose granny knot because I might have to change it. I have a masking tape pointer on the string there. Now if I turn it, oh no, it's the wrong way. Yeah, no, that should go that way. To bring that way, I've put that backwards. I worked it all out and mucked it up. Anyway. But it's working, works all right. I'll rewind that spindle the correct way and I'll come back and I can design a pointer. I rewound that spindle on the dial cord. I had worked out how it went and then forgot to actually change it over. So in the meantime, I'm going to put these braces on. There's two braces on the bottom, and that'll stabilize the chassis a bit. It's a bit wobbly otherwise. So I'll put these on, I'll come back and we'll make a dial pointer. Let's have a look at this pointer now. I have this one which I got off an old chassis I've got outside there. It's a bit thin here. This slider is a bit wider than the one I've got outside, so it doesn't quite fit. I mean, I could push it, I suppose. There you go. But that needs to be opened up. It's got the pointer on it. Yeah, so why not? So maybe I'll experiment with this one first. Otherwise, I'll just make one from scratch. But this is already done. It's got a nice pointer on it. Just needs to be opened up a bit. I'll just try and open this up. This bit of aluminium angle I've got here is the right gauge or thickness. I'll just keep working this till it slides on there nicely. I think I've got that pretty right. I ended up making a little aluminium packer there just to make it a bit thicker. It was a bit too tight, but I think that'll run all right. Yeah, that'll be good. I have the little slide on there. That's nice, doesn't wobble too much, and it's nice and smooth. On each end of the pointer guide there's a little stop, and it's adjustable, and they're set at the factory apparently. The alignment instructions say that when this slide hits that little stop, the left edge of this pointer should line up with this line. And as you can see, it stops short. So that means I need to trim off some of this slide. So if I use my highly inaccurate plastic vernier, that wire is about 2mm thick. And I measure from the right side of the pointer to that line. It's about 6mm. I take off 2, it gives me 4. So I need to cut 4mm off this slide. Try and mark this at 4mm. I'll go and cut that off and come back. I've ground that end off a bit to the mark. Actually, I think I went a bit too far. So if I line that up with that, yeah, I have to. So I've gone, well, maybe almost 1/2 mil. Alright, I can adjust that. I'll do that. It'll be fine. That's about where it needs to go. So I'll move this little stop up to meet it. Check that again. And we are right on the stop. That's perfect. I've mounted a tiny little bit of wire onto the dial string and set it right on that point there. So if I wind that down the other end, where it stops in relation to that stop here will be the exact length I need to make my little slide. So now if I measure from the stop here to the left side of this bit of wire, it's what's that, 37mm. That's how long I need to make the slide. I've lined the vernier up on that edge. I've still got it on 37, so there's about 2mm to take off there, 2mm. So I'll mark it there, and that's as much as I need to take off. I trim that edge off now, and if I do a little like a twist in here, like that, and I need to move this along, oops, like that. Oh, right, that's shut. And that's on the stop. I'll wind it down the other end, and it should just touch that stop when the gang bottoms. And there it is. It's probably, look, it's a couple of parts of 1mm out. In fact, it's pretty good. It's good actually. So now I've set the length of that slide and it retained the original stops. And you're probably thinking, why is he worrying about it? I just don't want to change the design of it, so I'll leave the stops there and make my part fit. I need to bend this to where I want it to be. I'll bend it up here a bit. Okay. And then I want to bring that back here. That's ended up kind of what I was thinking. Alright, I'll try and put it on. I only want to have a simple loop around here, and the way I've bent it now, it makes it a bit tricky. So I will take the string off here, put a loop in it, and then put it back on the pulley. Alright, I'll wind it down the other end. We'll see what happens. Should hit the gang, and it should hit the stop. And it has. Perfect. The next thing I need to do is find out where to bend this, and also the glass is on an angle, so I've got to work out the angle as well. I'll put the chassis back in the cabinet. Alright. There's the slider bar there, that's the glass there. So if I measure between those two, I'll see how far the glass is from the slider. And looks like about 1/2 inch there. As I said, the glass is angled. You can see it in here. So I've got a little angle finder jig here. So if I put that flat on there, push that over there, I should be able to get an idea of what it is. It looks about 9 degrees. So I'll angle the pointer at about 9 degrees and it should follow behind the glass. I've got 3/8 of an inch dialed in on that, so if I put a mark there, if I can bend it before that mark, that'll be okay. I also need to allow for the thickness of this rod here, so I'll actually bend it a bit further back than that. So I'll go back about there somewhere. If I bend it about there, I should be okay. I'll just check. I think that'll be alright. It'll end up about 1/8 from the glass, which is what I want. Okay, that's still on the 9 degrees. So yeah, it needs a bit more bend in it. So I'll just give it a bit of a tweak. I think I've pretty much got that. We're still on 9, yeah. Oh, okay, I'll leave it there. I think that'll work alright. I have no idea what the original looked like. I tried to find some photos. The only thing I really discovered was that this was painted black. So I'll take this off, take it outside and paint it. Let it dry, we'll bring it back and we might be able to start the radio up again and see if it works. I've painted the dial black. I think by the end of this project I'll be painting that white. I can't imagine you can see that through the glass. I have the speaker in here as well. I cut the wires to the plug so I could repaint this. This was very rusty. So now I have to put the wires back in the plug. I'll do this white wire first. If I melt the end, it should come out. There it is. I've got my solder sucker and my soldering iron. I'll just see if I can get the old solder out of the plug, out of the socket. So hopefully I can put that in there. It'll poke out the end. I've put a bit of flux on, look at that. I've put a bit of flux on the wire as well, just to help it. I didn't put any solder on the wire because it'd make it too thick to get through the hole. So it should be simply a matter of sweating that in. There you go. I'll clean that up, of course. I'll do the rest of them, then I'll come back and we'll plug it in. I put all the valves back in the radio last night and I need to put these goat shields on, and you may recall I was pretty downhearted after I'd taken them out of the rust remover. Anyway, these have come up good. A very light spray of that monument coloured paint and they look almost natural. So these goat shields do go a greeny grey colour, so I'm happy with those. I'm going to put them on. So I've put that one in there and the front can go in here. Now they do need to make an electrical contact. So if I pull that back a bit and try and file a little bit of a scratch in there, a little bit of paint off, that'll be enough to make a contact, I'm sure. I'll do the rest of the cans. I've got another set to put on another valve. I'll come back and we'll try it out. I've plugged the speaker in. I've got all the valves in. I'm going to put some power on. And it's on dim bulb. 25 watts. That seems to be lower than what I remember it was. So I'll turn it up a bit. Can't hear anything. I can hear something. Oh. Okay. This is the BBC. I know what's wrong. I'll put it on a station. There's a station. Something I learned very early on is feedback or oscillation. And that's what it is. I want to get tips on the game that the boys are going to call them. So this is not making a good ground. I need to remove those goat shields, sand off a bit of the paint where the contacts are made, and this will work properly. I was a bit haphazard with the file. Should have used some sandpaper. Alright, so I'll turn it up. So it's working. It's only on dim bulb still, 194 volts. Yeah. So I'll put it on full voltage and that should pick everything up.
Line 4th global station, Quinola 240, exacta 430.
Samsung Galaxy S23 series at Austin.
I imagine this was quite a dramatic role for her.
So,
like no other 7-seat SUV. To find out.
So it's working as well as it was. Woo.
For a moment, the time clock stopped with 3 seconds to go. That is the end of the game and the Warriors have won it.
Yay, I went for the Warriors, so good on them. Alright, just looking at that on that station, this indicator's slightly to the right, and up on this station, yeah, it's slightly to the right as well, so that oscillator probably needs adjusting. I'll set it up and I'll do an alignment. I'm set up to do the alignment. I have the chassis on its side. I'm very much aware that this choke is sitting at around 230 volts DC, so I will keep well away from that. I am very aware of that. I have my meter here as usual. I have my generator on 455, which is the IF for this radio. And I've connected the generator to the IF valve. So I've missed the first stage. We're into the second stage there. I'll just adjust this. I would imagine these are pretty close. Yeah, so that is the peak about there. This is the bottom of the same transformer. And we'll see what we get out of this. Once again, it's pretty right. That's good enough. I'll change where the signal generator is being injected from the IF valve to this valve up here, which is the converter. So if I put my little tool on there, see what we get. And once again, it's already peaked. And this is the bottom of the same transformer. And as we found with the other ones, it is pretty close. I'm calling that okay. I'll go through this again a few times, make sure they're perfect. I'll come back and we'll do the oscillator. I'll do the oscillator adjustments. To start with, I've got the pointer on 600 here. Bit of an angle for the camera, but it is on 600. Now these two adjustments here are the oscillator. That's the one that you would do at 1400, the trimmer, and the padder is this one here. So we'll do this at 600. Over here is the antenna trimmer, and on the top is the antenna padder. But the first thing I'll do is do these two here. You'll notice over the next few minutes of video that I've completely missed this little paper capacitor here. It's in the oscillator circuit, and its job is to prevent any DC getting back onto grid 1 of the oscillator. I will get to see the radio before I leave, and I'll replace that with a 100 picofarad microcapacitor. I have my generator on 600. So as I said, we've got 600 on the meter, we've got 600 going in it. All we've got to do is match the two. And I'll just do this by ear. And that's about it there. I'll run this up to 1400 on the dial. And once again, the camera angle's wrong, but that is exactly on 14. Now I've changed the generator to 1400. I'll turn this up again. There's nothing. I'll see if I can find it. Oh, there it is. So it's down about 13. So I'll go up there a little bit. And this is the adjustment for it, I think. Okay, where are we? I've gone further away there. Which way we go? Okay, it's got a screw in. It's just coming up. There it is. So that's the 14. I'll go back to 600 again. So wind it down to 600 again. Yeah, it has moved. Okay, I'm going to keep going back and forth with those two. I will get them to both work at 600 and 1400. I'll come back when that's done. I'm back on 600 there, back on 600 on the generator. I went back to 1400 and I didn't have to adjust anything. They were perfect. So I did one more adjustment after that last one. I'm back on 600 on the dial, back on 600 on the generator, and all I need to do is peak it with this antenna coil. This is the padder, or the padder will be inside the coil. So I just need to peak this. Sounds like it was pretty right. Yeah, that was okay. So it's back pretty much where it was. So run it up to 1400 again. And we trim this little aerial trimmer here to get maximum signal. Once again, that looks pretty right. It's about right where it was. I think it's about there now. Yeah, okay. That's it. All done. While I have this radio on the side, I'll just show you what's on this transformer here waiting to shock somebody. And it should have about 200 225 volts sitting right there. And normally you would be able to touch that without any trouble. So that's a real trap. You may be wondering what the logic is behind having these stops. And as far as I can work out, if you were to slip this along a bit, you can center it again. So it'll hit that stop. You can wind the capacitor forward a bit. Come up here, hit that end, and you've got your alignment back on the pointer. Now that reading the book, that appears to be the reason behind it. So let's test it. I've got power on. I'll turn it up a bit. I can hear a bit of static. Got an antenna on there.
You know, the sort of income support and cost burdens that the student faces just for studying.
Now I can see that now is lined up where it should be on the scale. And I'll go to the next station. Should be right there. Yeah. So the indication now is correct.
It had been my whole life, but I believe this is the worst.
I think it's got problems.
Keep writing more, and since then...
Wow, that's a hard station to pick up. So the alignment is good. It's sensitive and it's selective, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah. So this is, I'll put it up here.
The most practical out there, able to assist.
That's full volume and it's not loud enough. Also, when I tune between stations, I'll do it now,
Last week's a really good...
it's quiet. That means for this vintage of radio, the AGC is not working. And something else highlighted the AGC wasn't working when I tuned back to the strong station yesterday.
7-seat SUV.
So it's working as well as it was. Woo, it was too loud. I had to turn it down. So the AGC isn't working and we've got low volume. The number one suspect will be the 6P6 detector and triode. I will think that'll be weak. I'll pull that out and do a test on it. I have the valve in the tester. It's been on for a few minutes. I need to put this on top cap, and this goes on 30. It's dead. Because it's a detector valve, it has two diodes in it. I'll put that on 5, put that on 100. It should be in the green diode section there. I'll put it on 4. Yeah, so that valve's no good. I have a used 6B6 here, we'll try that. Up on a 30. Yes, it's not fantastic, but this tester does read it a little low. I'll see how it works. I'll take it around to 5. Put that on 100. The diode's good. Put it on 4. The diode's fine. So that's really good, the diodes. I'll install this valve. We'll see how that goes. Have the power back on. We'll turn it up.
Within 10.
Yeah, that's much louder. So the volume's back. If I tune between stations, yeah, they still can't hear it, so that may be the way this is designed.
A real estate agent
Helping you win.
But that has leveled the volumes.
There's also
So that's a weak station, a strong station, both the same level.
in the real estate world.
Stigmatism? Well, it was very...
For $49.99.
That's a very weak station and
50 mil.
still reasonably level. So that's working fine. That's a much better valve. I'll leave that in there. I'm happy with this now. I'll leave it running for a day or so to make sure nothing goes wrong. But I think I'll move on to the case. I'll go out in the workshop. I'm out in the workshop. I've got the case out here with me and we're just looking inside the case. I was going to leave this glass in because I'm concerned that if I try and take it out, it may lift some paint off. But no, that's come off all right. So I was going to leave it in here, but I'm now more concerned about damaging it while I'm painting and cleaning. So I'll just lift it out. Oh, that's coming away all right. Now that's coming away easily. Okay. There's the plate there and there's no real damage where the clips were. Good. I'll take this inside and put it away safely. I have the radio on its side and I also have some car cutting compound. And I'm not sure I usually use this. I can't remember. Just add a bit more water there. So this should grind off the top layer of dirt and whatever's on there. So I've let that dry a bit, and I should be able to remove that, what is essentially the abrasive portion of the polish. A little water there. So that first polish was quite abrasive. This is a very weak sort of abrasive, and this is what you would put on your car every 6 months or so. Okay, I'll let that dry off. Okay, that's kind of dried. I'll try and get that off. And to just bring up a bit of a gleam, I'll use some Brasso. That's drying off, so I should be able to buff that up. That's going pretty good. It feels good, and just try and get the light on it. Yeah, so you can see the old bit there. There's the new part. That's good. I'll finish the whole case off with some Canava wax later on, and that'll give it a nice gleam and protect the Bakelite. That's going to be the process I'll use on the rest of it. I'll do all this, I'll come back when it's finished, and I think you'll be surprised how good it looks. I've almost finished cleaning this, but I found a crack in the front here, and I'll glue it back down, but first I'll clean the front side of the crack. And there it is there. So it's not all that noticeable, so I'm not going to worry about trying to disguise it. But I've got some denatured alcohol, metho, whatever you want to call it. I'll try and get that into the front of it there, because it's now got the, you know, the stuff I was using to clean the case with. And I'll try and clean the back of it as well. It's a little bit dark in here for the camera, but I'm putting some super glue in here. Alright, I've got some super glue there. I'll just try and work it in a bit, and I'll hold it in place. I have some super glue accelerator here, so that'll make it set instantly. So I'll hold it in place, and it's only been 10 seconds and that is hard. Now, some of the super glues work through, so I'll give that a spray as well. I'll let that sit for half an hour or so, then I'll continue the polishing. I've pretty much finished the polishing. It has got some Canava wax on it. I need to let that harden and I'll polish it a bit more. But even now it looks pretty good. Now, as I said, it'll need a further buffing in maybe an hour, maybe two. In the meantime, I'll do the speaker cloth. I'll do the speaker cloth. Here's the original pattern and colour, so it's almost a yellow. It's not gold, I don't know what it is. Anyway, I have another piece which looks absolutely nothing like it, but it should look alright. It's got gold through it, it's got a bit of brown in it. I think it'll look alright. So I'm going to use that. The other thing is that's pretty much all I have. I'll peel the old cloth off and get ready to put the new one on. I've cleaned the old cloth off and tidied up the bit of wood there a bit. Now I need to make sure this goes on straight, because there's vertical bars, you know, running up and down. You'll pick it in a minute. What I've done is lined up that gold line with the edge of the masonite there. I'll put a staple in there. There's the gold line, so I'll stretch this and just line it up with that edge of the masonite and we should be okay. Try putting one in the middle. Alright, I'll put a couple across there as well. I'll spray this with some quick grip and then I'll glue the cloth back to it. I've allowed the adhesive to dry for a few minutes, and my idea is to pull it tight from the center there and just make sure it's pretty close to, you know, square that way. Boy, it's hard to square up wiggly lines. I think that's pretty good actually. I should be able to just sort of shape it onto the board. That's not bad. I've turned it over and I can see a line on the back and my line is off, so I'll line it up with the line on the back that'll be better. Just let me play around with this. I'll come back when it's lined up. I'm pretty happy with it, so I'm just doing the edges now. So I'll glue it and screw it. This has come up very straight. I'm very happy, as long as it looks alright in the radio. So I'll trim all this off, we can mount the speaker and I'll put it back in the radio. I brought the case inside and I've refitted the speaker and the dial glass. I did film it, but I lost most of the film. There was a little bit of paint missing off that dial glass like I thought, so I've put the dial glass clips back on with a tiny bit of black felt underneath. That should replace the missing black paint and hold the glass securely without putting too much pressure on it. So that's all fitted. I'm going to put the chassis in now. Alright, in she goes. There's the front of it. It looks pretty good. The dial cloth I'm not 100% sold on. I'm probably about 80%. The colours are okay. The pattern's not quite right. It shouldn't have vertical lines in it. I did try it sideways before I put it on the backboard, but that looks silly as well. So it's got the right colours, it's perhaps not the right pattern. There's the dial glass, that looks really good. I ended up painting that cursor white. The black probably would have worked actually, looking at it now, but I really couldn't get my head around it, so it's white now. It's time to put the knobs on, but when I looked for some felt, I've only got 3, and they're off-centre. Someone's made these with the hole off-centre, so they're no good. I'll go out and quickly laser cut 4 new ones. Here they are here, and because they're perfectly round, so they'll fit nicely. The knob's polished up very nicely. This one for the switch. And this one is volume. Oh, that looks good now. I'll plug it in, we'll turn it on. It's all ready to test. I've got some power at the back there, so I'll turn it on. There's the pointer there. It's very hard to see in the camera, but it is there. That should be warm by now. Oh, haven't got a channel. Hang on, no station.
You're a poet.
Sure.
Yep. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a little bit of classical, and you've penned a poem for us this afternoon about beards.
I have, indeed.
Go for it.
Some men can grow them, and some men attempt, while the baby-faced others glare with contempt. At beards long and bushy, beards short and maintained, beards wispy and grey and nicotine-stained. Beards grown from stubble, overhung from Movember. Beards grown for so long the owner has ceased to remember. From bikies to wizards to humbled old...
I was going to grow a beard once and my wife threatened to withdraw her marital obligations, and I said I'd fail to see the threat.
Developers. But there's also a stick approach. The European Union here, we have very strong
Back to radios.
around energy.
It sounds great.
With a strong belief.
Nice big speaker.
Being the last one, Glenn Guy of Fury. Victor Tony, though, really put...
Oh, there's the station.
The new Homer Classic is coming up on 1 o'clock with Trevor Sinclair.
So that's 4BH. Very hard to get. At night I'll pick that up much better. You'll be able to listen to it. Fair bit of static there.
John Mellencamp will get us into another.
So good station to listen to, but unfortunately can't get it from where I am.
They're all wrong. I know.
Okay, can't play that. Something I forgot about was this dial pointer. I set it up to 9 degrees to hopefully follow the dial, and it's very near perfect. It's possibly 0.2 of a millimetre further back down the bottom there. That's surprising. So mathematics does work. Or is it geometry? You might have noticed during the video that the chassis had 2 holes in it. That was for a couple of capacitors which were missing. I wasn't going to worry about it, but I found a couple out in the workshop. So I mounted those in there. They're not connected in any way, but I'm glad I put them in now. I'm very happy with the way this has come out. The cabinet looks terrific and the radio works very, very well. I'll run this for another day or so, make sure it doesn't have any problems. I'll box it up and throw it in the boot and take it down to Melbourne. And we're off on a leisurely drive down to Melbourne. we arrived in Melbourne okay, and I was down at my brother-in-law's today, and he said he had this radio which he'd got from a deceased estate. I knew he had this, and I knew what it was. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the pointer in it. Well, I didn't think it did, but it still does. It also has a pretty good grill cloth on it. I'm wondering if I should change that over. Now, as it was with the other radio, as soon as the dial pointer string breaks, the pointer can drop out. There's nothing to stop it. So I was a little dismayed, but I did find it in here. And I've lost it again. I think it's in here. Oh, there it is. I couldn't see it. All right. There it is there, and it's black. So I should have left mine black. It's pretty much the same design as what I ended up doing. But I think I'll just give that a coat of black. I might take the speaker out and I'll see what that grill cloth looks like. Here's the grill cloth. It's no good. It's been eaten out there and it's severely discoloured, so I'll have to leave the cloth that I've got in there already. And I've painted the dial pointer as well, so that needs a few more coats. I'll put it all in the radio. We'll have a look at it when I unveil it down at my sister-in-law's place.
Hi David, I'm back.
Cheryl. How you going?
What's the noise?
Oh,
David, what's this? Oh, David, this is wonderful. Is it for me?
Yep, it's all yours.
David, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're not going to give me a hug, are you?
There's the hug.
I finally escaped. I think she liked it, and she'll get lots of use out of it too, because she likes listening to the old radios. I hope you enjoyed watching that. I'm going to head home now and start working on my next radio adventure.
This is the Mornington Peninsula's Easy Music 3MP.